Hello, and welcome back to another Haunted Newfoundland Libraries. So, what are you afraid of? Unexplained sounds? Footsteps? Just being alone, but not really alone? Let's listen to these stories from our friends at the Kendale and St. Lawrence Public Libraries. This story comes from Jamie, the supervisor at the Kendale Public Library. While I'm sure a breeze or unstable book caused this, I still think it's a fun little story. One day, I was standing in the foyer talking to a worker. She was back onto the edge of the stacks where the books are on display. I was facing her and could see behind her. All of a sudden, a book from the display behind her flew off the shelf and almost hit her, and then landed at her feet. There was no one behind her or near her, or near this book. A substitute of ours has mentioned several times that she has been down in the stacks organizing, and then when she returns without anyone having been there, the books are all shifted and pushed in. Sometimes it happens during her shift, but sometimes she tidies at the end of her shift, and when she returns in the morning, they've all been shifted and pushed back in. That was from Jamie in Kendale. This story is from Vicki Lockyer from the St. Lawrence Public Library. There have been many, and she says many, unexplained sounds and happenings here at the St. Lawrence Academy, formerly the St. Lawrence Central High School. This building now houses all of the K-12 students in St. Lawrence, and the public library is situated smack dab in the middle, right in the middle of the 3 floors. When this building was being built in 1977, there was a young man who fell from the roof to his death. Mr. Gary Reeves was a young man, well loved and respected in the community, and we're pretty sure that he's our resident friend, who we can hear walking around upstairs random evenings when there's no one else in the building. Doors close and footsteps are heard quite often, and it's just accepted and shrugged off. The janitorial staff have also shared their stories of randomly hearing basketballs bouncing in the gym all hours of the day and night. I have not heard that one myself until one summer day. I was here in the building alone, the janitors were on holidays, and the school was out for summer vacation. As I was leaving the building when I was closing, I have to pass by the gym to get to the main floor. And as I get closer and closer to the gym, I can hear the steady whomp, 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 whomp of a basketball bouncing. I started to hurry my stride to get the HE double hockey sticks out the door when I stopped myself and said, you have to go look because you'll never enter the building again if you don't. So I crept over to the door, hauled it open with all my might, sticking my head inside very quickly, only come to face to face with a student who'd been there practicing for the MUN basketball team. The principal had given him permission to go and practice, and we both screamed in shock as neither one of us knew the other was in the building. No ghost this time, although the looks on both of our faces, you would swear we have seen one. The freakiest by far was again in that summer with no one else in the building, and occasionally the NLESD workers would be in random classrooms doing repairs over the summer, so noises and strange sounds were common. This day, upon arriving, I saw no van in the lot to say that anyone else was here, but as I approached the library, I could hear music playing in a classroom across the hall. It played away for a couple of hours, and I knew I hadn't heard any workers go into that room, so I thought, oh well, they must have left the radio on. I'll just go and shut it off. So I followed the sound to the classroom, across the hall, to the side shelf where, sure enough, there was a little plug-in stereo playing away, except it wasn't plugged in, and it didn't have any batteries. I laid it down and left the classroom, speaking to the teacher whose classroom it was before she passed away, while working out the weight room downstairs a few years before, telling her I loved and missed her, but because but please don't appear to me. And about 15 minutes later, the music stopped. So all in all, it's never a lonely place, even when you're working alone. And that was from Vicki at the St. Lawrence Public Library.
Hello, I am Natasha from the A.C. Hunter Library, and I'll be sharing some spooky stories from libraries around our province. Today's story comes from Caitlin Baker in Buckens Library. I'm a call-in librarian at Buckens Public Library, as well as a teacher at the same building. So as you can imagine, I've spent a lot of time here alone. While I haven't seen any ghosties, I have certainly heard some creepy things. For example, every evening from anywhere between 6 to 8 o'clock, one of the toilets here just flushes on its own. These are manual flush toilets, by the way, not sensor-activated ones, which I'm honestly not sure it makes it even less or more spooky. While in the library at night, a toy fire truck also goes off on its own, most of the time when I'm exiting out the door. It's just in the box with the rest of the toys, and even when I moved it by itself, I thought maybe something was pushing its buttons or something, it would still go off by itself. On another evening, I heard a loud thud, and when I went to check, a book that was wedged firmly between other books had been pushed out on the floor, with the other books not moved at all. Very spooky when you're here by yourself. The building was built where the old bunkhouses used to be when the Buckens mines were operating, and I've heard stories of people having died there, which could explain why a relatively new building, built in 2000, that only holds the library and the school, seems to have some cheeky ghosts. Today's story comes from Amy Percy Fisher from Brigus. About the ghost stories in the libraries. This one was before I worked as a sub. I had a 10-week summer grant working at the Brigus Library back in 2000. Elsie Percy, no relation, was the librarian at the time, and she popped outside to go across the road for the mail during her lunch break, I believe it was, and I was in the upstairs portion. She locked the door and told me there was no one there and she would be back in a few minutes. I was replacing old spine labels before everything was automated, and I heard someone on the stairs, then heard a deep voice call my name. I didn't think anything of the sound of the stairs. I figured she was back early. No, I was completely alone, and someone yelled out my full name, Amy Percy, because this was before I was married. So once that happened, I ran down the stairs and waited down there till Elsie came back. No idea who said anything, and no one was there. I was nervous the rest of my grant time and since becoming a sub, and I've worked there since. I've gotten a feeling someone is there, but not in a bad way. This is what happens when you use historic buildings.